Welcome to Dormiveglia, the threshold every human crosses each night and almost no one explores. Tonight, we explore it together. Sleep has always resisted the will. Ask someone who has spent an anxious hour in bed trying to force themselves unconscious, and they will tell you something that every insomniac knows. The harder you try to sleep, the more awake you become. Sleep is the one biological process that cannot be achieved through direct effort. You cannot think your way into it, plan your way into it, or optimize your way into it. The moment you turn your full attention on it and begin to demand results, it quietly steps back. This was understood long before the internet made it worse. Ancient Stoic writers described the paradox explicitly. When you grasp at rest, rest withdraws. The wise person does not chase sleep, but creates the conditions for its arrival and then releases the outcome. Medieval physicians wrote about the futility of what they called the sleepless effort. The rigid, effortful lying in bed that produces not rest, but a particular kind of exhausted wakefulness. Shakespeare's most tortured kings cannot sleep. Not because their beds are uncomfortable, but because the weight of their minds makes command impossible. And in their speeches you hear the unmistakable frustration of a person who is trying very, very hard to do something that cannot be tried for. What is new in our moment is not the anxiety about sleep. It is the market that has grown up around it. Sleep has become a project, a set of metrics to be optimized, a protocol to be followed, a score to be achieved. There are sleep trackers and sleep coaches and sleep supplements, sleep playlists and weighted blankets designed with specific grams of pressure per square inch. There are morning routines and evening routines and afternoon routines constructed entirely around the goal of better sleep. The industry of sleep optimization turns over billions of dollars a year, selling the promise that with the right intervention, the right product, the right protocol, you can finally solve the problem of rest. The irony, and it is a deep one, is that all of this attention, all of this effort, all of this measurement may be making the problem worse. The thing that sleep requires most is the very thing that optimization culture makes hardest to achieve: the ability to stop trying. Here is what actually happens when you try too hard to sleep. The part of your nervous system responsible for the transition into sleep is the same part responsible for rest, repair, and the letting go of active engagement with the world. It operates on a simple principle. The less urgency in the system, the more available it becomes. When you are genuinely relaxed, when there is no outstanding demand, no unresolved task, no signal that something requires your attention, sleep is the body's natural next move. It does not need to be summoned. It arrives. The part of your nervous system responsible for action, attention, and problem solving operates on the opposite principle. It is activated by stakes, by demands, by the sense that something important is unresolved. It keeps you alert, focused, and ready to respond. When you lie in bed monitoring your own sleep, checking whether it has arrived, assessing whether you are relaxed enough, tracking the minutes since you lay down, evaluating the quality of your thoughts, you are activating the second system while trying to inhabit the first. You have turned the act of falling asleep into a performance. and performance requires the arousal system to be running. This is not a character flaw. It is a perfectly logical consequence of applying a culture of optimization to a process that fundamentally does not respond to optimization. Sleep trackers measure sleep. They do not improve it. And for a significant number of people, they make it worse. Because now there are numbers to achieve. And the anxiety of not achieving them is another thing to lie awake worrying about. The science of sleep is consistent on this point. The interventions that most reliably improve sleep are not the ones that require effort. They are the ones that reduce effort. Consistency, darkness, cool temperature, a mind that has been given space to settle before the lights go out. The removal of things that stimulate, rather than the addition of things that are supposed to relax. Good sleep is not a project. It is an absence of projects. Every habit that genuinely helps sleep does so by clearing the path rather than building something new on it. And the most important thing you can clear is the expectation of achievement. Rest cannot be maximized. It can only be allowed. Here is something you can bring with you tonight. A different way of thinking about how much sleep is enough. Instead of counting hours, count cycles. Sleep moves through the night in roughly 90-minute cycles. Each cycle passes through lighter and deeper stages and returns to a lighter stage before the next cycle begins. These transition points, the moments between one cycle and the next, are the natural points of waking. They are not failures of sleep. They are the architecture of it. A person who sleeps through 5 complete cycles, 7.5 hours, will often feel significantly more rested than a person who sleeps for 8 hours and is woken mid-cycle by an alarm. The difference is not the extra 30 minutes. It is the point in the cycle at which waking occurs. Rising from the lighter transition between cycles feels like natural waking. Rising from the middle of a deep cycle feels like being dragged. The practical application. Count back from your intended wake time in 90-minute increments to find your ideal bedtime. If you need to wake at 6:30, 5 full cycles takes you back to 11. 4 cycles to 12:30. Work with the cycles rather than fighting them. On mornings when you can choose your own waking time, pay attention to how you feel. If you wake naturally before your alarm at a moment that feels clean and clear, that is likely a cycle transition. Trust it. The body is often right about when it is finished. Here is the second tool. And it addresses not what you do in the hours before bed, but what you do with the room itself. Your brain learns associations. Over time, it attaches specific feelings and states to specific contexts. If you spend several hours each evening in your bedroom watching screens, working on your laptop, eating, or scrolling, your brain learns that the bedroom is a place of activity. And when you lie down to sleep, it arrives in that room carrying the associations it has built for it. The principle of keeping the bedroom for sleep, and if you share a bed with a partner, for intimacy, is one of the most consistently supported findings in sleep research. Not because of anything magical about the bedroom itself, but because of how the brain builds context-specific states. The bedroom should become, through repetition, a place where the body begins to prepare for rest the moment you enter it. The dim light, the cooler temperature, the feel of the sheets. If these cues are consistently associated with sleep, they become sleep cues. Triggers that begin the relaxation response before you have even consciously decided to sleep. This means the simplest version of better sleep hygiene is not a supplement or a protocol. It is removing everything from the bedroom that does not belong there. The laptop goes to the desk in another room. The phone charges outside the door. The television, if there is one, stays off after a certain hour. Give the room one job. Let it do it. Thank you for watching Dormiveglia. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And until next time, rest deeply.